Welcome to America's Heroes Group, our live digital media show. How you guys doing today? This is July, and July is American Diabetes and National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. Today is Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. I'm Sean Claiborne, your host, Army National Guard veteran. And of course, we have with us Gigi Crowder, Executive Director of NAMI Contra Costa in California. NAMI is the National Alliance of Mental Health Illness Advocacy Group, founded by family members of people with mental illness. And we're going to talk about some things they're doing, some great stuff coming up. She's going to have a concert featuring Grammy Award winner Erica Campbell. How you doing today, Gigi?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I also have an update for you. I've been in the last week promoted up to the CEO of NAMI Contra Costa. So
wow,
I'm excited about that.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. So what are you going to be in your responsibilities as CEO of NAMI Contra Costa?
Pretty much everything I was doing and didn't recognize I shouldn't be doing because it was an elevated position, but a lot more work with budgets and numbers and just better positioning ourselves strategically, and a lot more marketing and rubbing shoulders with other CEOs to help boost our funding.
I wish you success, and I know you're going to do a great job.
Thank you.
So tell us about this concert coming up. You have Erica Campbell. She's a Stella Award winning person. Also, she has a Grammy and a Stella Award. Tell us about how did you hook up with her and what's going on with this concert?
So several years ago, when COVID first reared its ugly head, she's the first lady at a church in Los Angeles, California, and they were looking to address the mental health challenges that people may be faced through COVID. And so last year we had Fred Hammond, and we had a pretty mixed audience, but I said, wow, if I got an opportunity to do it again, I would definitely use Erica Campbell because in the work that we did before, she definitely has a heart for improving outcome for those who live with mental health challenges. So I got the second chance to do our healing through music. A lot of individuals rely on music as a healing source. And because we were in the month of July, a BIPOC mental health awareness, we're kind of erasing the word minority because depending on where you're at, that definition can shift. So Black, Indigenous, people of color, named after B.B. Moore Campbell, who was a strong advocate in Southern California for the African-American community, and us being more diligent about getting the services that we need. And it was named after her. So July, BIPOC Mental Health Awareness Month is actually in memory and to continue the legacy of B.B. Moore Campbell, a well-celebrated author.
Wow. Now, you mentioned COVID. You just mentioned to me, and I don't mind if you released that information, but you mentioned that you were also under the weather with COVID as well.
Yeah.
People still don't. I mean, it's been, 4 years, almost 5 years, and this is something that people don't really think about. I haven't really thought about COVID. And so is that something that we should be taking seriously still? And how was it this time around? Because you had COVID before, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I actually never had COVID with symptoms. So this was my first time. A large number of my staff had it. I guess this variation is called flirt. It did not flirt with me. It hit me head on. Headaches, throbbing headache, actually. And a lot of, it kind of can position you to have a little bit of fear because, the first round of COVID, when it first introduced, we had a lot of loss in our community. And so we're starting to see in California, not following the national levels, but they have said that it's higher now than it had been since a year ago. So I just saw that headline. So I'm telling people in our office, we're taking the necessary precautions. Had a couple of staff members who had tested positive and had symptoms, but I thought I was invincible since I had been vaccinated. But when you have a new variant, sometimes you need to boost it up and take new precautions. And so, of course, now I'm much more diligent about supporting individuals to make sure they have the PPP, the face mask, all the stuff you need to heighten your safety toward it.
All the protective gear is really important. Yeah. And then really just having it on your radar, I think, is important.
Yes.
Because, like I said, my girlfriend's been bugging me about making sure I get vaccinated, but I have to kind of put it to the back burner. So I got 3 boosters. I should be good. But the reality is that you might be under the weather with something and not even realize what you even have.
Exactly.
So I might have to rethink that and really start thinking about getting my boosters and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So the purpose of this concert is to raise money and awareness for mental illness and mental health. How successful was the last one? We talked about Fred Hammond's concert a little bit last time you were on our show.
Yes.
A year ago.
Well, it was very successful because, I mean, just like we work with Mr. Fab, a recording artist that, leans toward hip hop, he's able to engage the urban male in a way that many therapists with their suits on wouldn't be able to do. And so now with Erica Campbell, we've seen that African-American women in particular have high numbers of depression, anxiety, and we wanted to make sure that we afforded them the opportunity in the same way we had a mixed crowd pretty much with Fred Hammond. But so far as I look at the ticket sales, they're primarily women, primarily African-American women, and they're very excited. So the outcome we had last time was that we had many more people utilize we have a warm line for people who are having a little bit of difficulty, not quite sure whether it's mental health or where to go. So we provide resources at these mental health awareness events, or gospel concerts, and we have support groups. So we saw the numbers of participants increase dramatically after we started doing it. We had to add some more specific groups. Like we added a grief group because when people call and they share what their needs are, then we try and tailor to the needs of the individual. So we have a faith-based grief group now. We have a young adult group led by a female, and then we have a young adult group led by a male. And so just kind of catering to the needs, and they're well attended monthly.
Wow. And that's what I was hoping to hear, that people are now starting to seek help and participate in either, whether they're going to do a group therapy or individual therapy. And one thing I've noticed lately over the last few years, there's so many more resources now through digital media to get help. We had professional athletes, actors come out and say that, I'm using or even advocating for and advertising for a lot of the self-help groups and a lot of the digital professional help groups that specialize in giving people counseling to conquer these mental health issues. So I'm glad to hear that people are actually out there taking advantage of it. What are some of the things that you mentioned? There's different sectors or different topics that people need help on, because people don't think about, I lost a family member, or I'm going through a serious breakup, or I'm going through a divorce. What are some of the things that people that people need to be aware of to make sure that they're taking care of their mental health? Because we always are taught to, we need to eat right, we need to exercise, but we always neglect how we think and how our mind is trained.
Yeah, one of the things that has come up as a reoccurring theme is also because NAMI was started with family members. If you're a family member and you have a loved one who you had particular hopes, dreams, and goals, and thought they were going to one day grow up and be, the first or female president of the United States, and then your child at the age of 18, 19 is hit with this mental illness, then sometimes you have to grieve the loss of expectations. And so one of our groups started with that, like defining grief for family members whose loved ones have this horrible diagnosis of schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, etc. And just embracing the fact that despite living with this, of course, there's opportunities for the individual to connect with the purpose, but working through that process and recognizing that perhaps the doctor you thought you were going to have may be able to work in a hospital setting, but may not have the wherewithal because of the mental illness to take the rigorous courses needed to become a doctor. And I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but it's less likely with a more severe mental health diagnosis.
Wow. Now, when people are seeking mental health help, what are some of the misconceptions people might have about it? Because do people come in thinking, well, if I talk to them a few times, I'll be cured, or do people maybe don't do the things or that they're supposed to when they first start out?
Yeah, I think sometimes when we see this recurring cycling of individuals, what we see is individuals often take the meds, feel better, and think they don't need the meds anymore. And so I've seen individuals respond pretty well to a medication regimen, even with all of the side effects. But then over time, they stop taking their meds. They might start drinking again. Self medicating is a big deal in mental health. So about 60% of the folks who live with mental illness have a co-occurring with substance use. And so that, of course, because of the brain chemistry for someone who lives with a mental illness, that's a no-no, you know. So we see individuals who really kind of, in some way, relapse because or start having experiencing symptoms again because they're not going to their therapist. They're not putting everything in their toolkit they need to have a successful, healthy life despite living with a mental illness. So, and the stigma, of course, associated with having a mental illness. The side effects of the medication is pretty difficult for some people to manage. And so they, you know, it's really working it out with the psychiatrist or the prescribing individual. The prescribing of your med individual is not always a psychiatrist. And finding what works, because I know in the African American community, I hear a lot of the males say they're over medicated, and you can kind of see it. And so you wouldn't want to take a med that causes you to kind of lose touch. So just having the conversations to find the balance. African Americans tend to metabolize their medications faster than other ethnic groups.
You mentioned
slower.
Slower? Okay.
Yes.
So what you mentioned some side effects. What are some of the common side effects that a person who's taking medications could maybe look out for, so that way that they can know whether or not they need to have a conversation with their therapist?
One of the horrible side effects, which would make it even difficult for someone like me, is it actually slows down your metabolism. So there's often a lot of weight gain for a lot of the medications, and individuals don't like to take the meds if they feel like they're going to gain all of this weight. Long-term use of the heavy doses can cause illness called tardive dyskinesia, and it's like the shaking of the hands, and that kind of, when you're in the public and you can't control your hand movement, that could be somewhat embarrassing for individuals. And then there's, besides the weight loss and the more severe tardive dyskinesia, there's a host of other side effects, just like any other medication that you take. Might cause sweating, loss of sleep, body rash for some individuals. Some of them actually cause diabetes. And so you have to be really careful and have that conversation with your doctor. Too often when people live with mental illness, we start treating above the neck. And so said statistic is individuals who live with severe mental illness who take a long-term use of medication generally die 15 to 20 years earlier than the general population.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
Now, hearing something like that, I mean, that might make somebody not want to even take the medication. Why people don't want to take the medications. And then to your point, you mentioned, I read an article not too long ago that talked about how drinking alcohol plus taking medications could really make things hard on your body, because your liver is trying to clean your body. Now it has to deal with the toxicity of alcohol, plus if you're taking any other drugs, hopefully not, but then the medication you're taking.
Yes.
So it can be hard on your kidney and hard on your liver.
Yeah, and we learned that some individuals who, tested positive for COVID, the COVID medications interfered with their psychiatric or psychotropic meds. So they have to just sweat it out without being able to take the meds that could give them relief. And so it could be pretty serious for individuals.
How effective is therapy? Talking to people that have more of the severe types of mental illness, like schizophrenia or any type of other psychotic event. What are some of the things? Does therapy and talking through things help?
Just like with anyone else, right? So if you're bottling things up, it can actually heighten anxiety and depression. But if you're able to talk, for those who get the opportunity, most individuals, when they live with mental health challenges, income-wise, they can't afford the high price. And if you're in a county or governmental system, they only have so many to go around. But we have noted that those who do get an opportunity to have therapy, the right meds, and structured work day, or, they might be going to a program, housing, they tend to do a whole lot better than those that have missing pieces of that. And so those who have therapy, what we've tried to do at NAMI across the nation, but specifically at NAMI, is we complement the therapy with the support groups, because learning from the skill set of peers who've been there where you have, where you are now, but they've gotten through it, is pretty beneficial for some people. And some people respond better to lived experience support than they do professional book knowledge support.
Mm. And so when you have a family member who has, whether it's severe or maybe not as severe mental health issues, but they will not go to therapy, they will not go see help, or maybe they started seeking help, maybe they need medication, stop taking the medication, won't go see the therapist anymore because they think that they're doing okay or they think that they're cured. How does a family member or how does a family try to change that action, or try to get them to encourage them to go back into therapy and get back on the horse?
Well, we have national signature programs that kind of give family members and the individuals tools to support them if they're supporting someone. Of course, if someone has a decision as an adult that they do not want to take their meds, it's very little someone can do if someone decides they're not going to do the therapy. And surprisingly, a lot of people don't have this conversation, but for a lot of the folks we work with, they actually turn to their faith and spiritual practice and will put them higher up on the list of a need as to be included in their tools for balance. So prayer has been identified. Reading Holy Scripture has been identified as an essential wellness tool for a lot of people over traditional therapy.
There's a lot of studies that show that having a faith-based system a lot of times is an actual motivator, and it helps the person get out of different situations, whether it be physical or mental health.
Yeah.
So the data is definitely strong in there. Even this being in the environment, the changing the environment for someone has a huge impact on their mental health, and even in the very extreme cases.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate sometimes you see. I had when we first started doing America's Heroes Group, I actually used to drive down under this viaduct, and there was a homeless man that slept under this viaduct. And he had an American flag hanging over his camp, you could call it his tent, whatever. And so one day we decided to go talk to him. So me and Manny actually are one of our guys who work here. He brought his camera, went out there, we talked to him, and we could tell he had some cognitive issues. His family had been looking for him for 2 years. He was living on the street. We actually were able to reunite him to his family. Believe it or not, his sister was in the military, was in the Army, and actually she was instrumental in trying to get him back connected with his family. But that was one of those situations where he was getting help, was in a system that gave him housing, gave him shelter. Somehow he fell off the horse or got disconnected from that, and then literally just disappeared from the family. And was missing for 2 years. Now he's in a more of a structured environment, and because of his actions, he's now ward of he's not his own. He has to have a guardian. So he has a guardian actually that has to oversee what he's doing and make sure that he's taking his meds and things along those lines. How difficult is it for family members, if that's necessary, to become a guardian for someone who is not able to take care of themselves?
Well, in California, we have Care Court. So it was an initiative passed that the governor supported, and it comes with housing. So I was just in a meeting yesterday where the decision makers were deciding how will this roll out in my county. It's been a tiered approach to rolling it out in California, and Contra Costa County is supposed to roll out in December. So what I was sharing with the individuals was generally that's going to be spearheaded by the family members. We get calls every day in our office from family members who have loved one. They know where they hang out at, but they know that they're not in a place. A lot of them self-medicate with alcohol, drugs, and other, things they shouldn't be doing. So it wouldn't be a good idea for them to live. Often it's with aging family members, so they can't bring them into their home. So this Care Court idea would be that the family member would file a petition for the person to become, kind of like with children, a ward of the court. And the court would mandate that the individual has to follow a regimen, but included in that is housing. And one of the comments I made yesterday was that we make assumptions that people don't want the care. And whenever we go out and feed the unsheltered, we run into large groups of individuals who just have never had the opportunity. So I'm not surprised at the success you guys had with the individual, because sometimes when they're lost, it's up to people who are in a better state to kind of guide them back to a place where they can have more stability, housing, wellness, and sometimes just the black robe effect, as we say, seeing a judge who said, hey, you don't do these things, you're going to go to jail, has made a difference in some of the programs where the person has been criminal justice involved. So it's this balance. They're adults, so they have the right to make choice. There's some people I've run into who said, the voices are louder in housing. I like to be out because they live with such a severe symptoms of their mental illness. They like to be outdoors. And then there's many more who I said, what if I can get you housing, regular meals, all of this? Would you like that? They usually will say yes. And we also, through COVID, reunited individuals with their families because of now the family was more understanding that this is a mental illness that I was dealing with. And then the individuals are like, I also am hearing about this horrible illness, COVID, and I don't want to be away from my family. I want the support too. But we have to use what I call a harm reduction model. You can't expect a person who's been on the street having a very difficult time, often self-medicating, to just stop everything and go live in a home without the skill set and just magically everything's okay. No, a lot of the individuals who got keys to hotels and etc. ended up back on the streets because they were told you can't drink, you can't do this. Has to kind of be ushered into a place where they slowly, wean off of the things that weren't serving them and geared toward the things that would position them to have a healthier wellness and improved outcome.
So that tells me that, their family members really have to have a lot of patience when dealing with someone with any kind of cognitive issue or mental illness. And there's a scale, there's a spectrum. It's like anything else. So you have people that have this slight issues like depression, or maybe they're going through trauma, and you have the extreme stuff like schizophrenia and all these other types of things. So what are some of the coping mechanisms that maybe family members need to develop or think about developing, and maybe they need therapy to even get to help them help someone get into therapy?
I've often said, if you're a family member of someone who has severe mental illness and you've been on that roller coaster with them, hospitalizations and such, you probably do live with a level of PTSD, because it's not norm to see a kid who may have been 4.0 student and doing great, and then now less than a year later, you're having to call the cops because they're having behaviors that suggest, that you could be at harm or they could be at harm. So that's a grief process that parents go through, and some fare better than others while they're going through that. So that's why some of our courses, like Family to Family, kind of teach the family members about mental illness and what they could expect. So it prepares them so they won't be on that roller coaster ride in such a way where their health is compromised. But I have seen a lot of family members not do so well because they love their children. There's a lot of grief, a lot of mourning of what could have been when their loved one is, on that roller coaster. Because there are some individuals, no matter what, they're very compliant with their meds. They will go to the therapist, and the symptoms are just such that they don't get a lot of relief.
Wow. Now let's going to more of a uplifting topic. So the concert, back to the concert you got coming up.
Yes.
You have about 6 minutes left.
Yes.
Less than 5 minutes. So when is the concert? How do people get tickets? Tell us what people are going to hear and see when they get these tickets.
Yeah, so on July 27th in the city of Pittsburgh, California, Erica Campbell is going to be toward the end of the program. But the first part of the program, I always start with this, like the purpose of the day and then the icebreaker. The icebreaker gives audience members an opportunity to think about the songs that make them feel better when they're having a difficult time. So we have a dynamic church we're going to be doing it at. And so they're already practicing the age group will be across the board. So some people will have an old spiritual hymn they grew up when they were 7 years old hearing, and that's the song that they like when they're having a difficult time. And some will have more modern songs. I share with people a lot of times. There was actually a documentary for African-American men about what song got them through a difficult time. And it was Marvin Sapp's Never Would Have Made It. And so if someone says that, I got a backup choir who's going to sing. Now, that's for the people who have the gift of song. They can sing, but otherwise we'll use the choir to sing. And you know how music once it gets in you, it really gets in you. And then I've given, after we get through the purpose and we go through the icebreaker, we have someone who'll do spoken word. We have one who's going to sing I Get to Be Selfish, one of my favorite songs, which is of the Aladdin song. So it's a whole new world, and that's the song for me that lifts my spirit. And then Erica Campbell will give us 45 minutes. She'll talk about the important role music has played in her life and her connection to mental health and improving outcomes for the African American community. And then she'll go into the songs, and I hope she sticks to the list that I've given her, because I'm also selfish with that. And Yesterday and Shackles on My Feet, some of the stuff she did with her sister while she was in the Mary Mary group.
Oh, wow. That's going to be a great concert.
Yeah.
So once again, it's going to be, give those dates one more time.
July 27th in Pittsburgh, California at New Destiny Church. And I don't turn anyone away for lack of ability to pay, but it's $40 for, a regular admission. I put $50 at the door, but if someone shows up, I'm going to be so excited. Probably like, come on in, everyone. Come on. That's just the way, because the goal is we're going to have our NAMI resource table. Then the goal is that individuals may come in one way, but will come out with more of a connection of wanting to heal if they're in a place where they or someone they know are having a difficult time. We want them to leave with the resources they need.
I think that's a great idea that you put these concerts together. And where do they get tickets? How do they get tickets?
Our website. So individuals can go to our website at NAMI Contra Costa or Eventbrite. They put Healing Through Music, Pittsburgh, California, and it pops right up.
Now, if they get tickets, can they get on the mailing list so they can go to future concerts?
Definitely. So it generates an email list, and we invite people from last time who were there for Fred Hammond, and then they go on the list for future.
That's pretty good. I think that was a great idea that you guys put this stuff together, because, using music is a healing thing as it is.
Yeah.
I don't care what situation you're in. You can, when you hear the right song and that speaks to you, it opens up your heart, makes you feel better. I've always believed in the power of music.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been a musician myself if I had it my way. But, I think that's a great thing that you're doing for people. And then, putting that with and matching that with the power of real scientific medical help that's actually proven, is not some goofy stuff that somebody made up on the internet, some social media stuff, whatever. People that actually do these things for a living, talking to you, helping you walk through your problems, and if necessary, making sure that you're on the right medications. So I think it's so important that we have to reiterate today that if you're going through whatever you're going through, get help. There's so many resources out there, and don't just give up on your meds. You go prescribe medication for a reason. If it's not working out for you, have those conversations with your therapist.
Exactly.
Or you end up like our friend did on the street. 2 years later, sitting on the street because he went sideways and it didn't quite work out.
Yeah, most often that's it. Stop taking the meds and you start, you lose parts of your life because you have to start all over again.
Wow. Gigi, I appreciate your time once again. And tell us what happened at the concert afterwards. You guys send us pictures. You want the whole 9, video, whatever you got.
Definitely we'll send it to you all.
America's Heroes Group, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Be back soon.
Thank you.